Anne, thank you for joining us on the Brand Innovator stage. I'm really excited about our two brands that I think everybody interacts with most days, hopefully. Google, Colgate. And I've been a fan of Colgate for a long time, many years, and then got closer to the Colgate family, moving my family to manage the account in 2013. And I feel pretty embedded there. And I've watched, particularly over the last few years, the role of the Chief Sustainability Officer, which is you. And it's changed a little bit, and it's changed even recently kind of in the profile. Can you tell us about that change, and maybe that points us towards what it means for Colgate in terms of sustainability?
Sure. Yeah, well, thanks for welcoming me here. This is a much better place to be than ShopTalk. It's nice and calm. So maybe I'll start with just a bit about myself. So I've been at Colgate 32 years, probably longer than some of you people are even old in the audience here. I can see who they are. I grew up in the supply chain, and Colgate's actually been, any company that's on a sustainability journey, it takes time, and you start somewhere. We've been on this journey for about 2 decades. And so when I became the first chief sustainability officer, many companies, by the way, are not, deputizing first chief sustainability. It's really increased, I think, 40% over the last 3 or 4 years. But I was still in the supply chain because that's really, where a lot of the environmental program evolved, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, waste to landfill, water, and energy, and all that. But where I've been trying to take the work we're doing now, I think the moderator stated our purpose statement, which is reimagining a healthier future for all people, their pets, and our planet. So we, of course, just quickly, we have oral care, we have personal care, home care, and we own Hill's Pet Nutrition, so that's where the pets come in. Fastest growing part of our business, by the way. So our purpose now is what we live and die by. Every Colgate employee knows the purpose, and we think it serves as a great North Star for our sustainability strategy. So we're embedding that into our growth plan, and we're not there yet. We don't have it quite right, but that's what we're trying to do. So I now report to the head of growth and strategy. So I've moved out of the supply chain for the first time in 32 years. And I think that's a big statement of how Colgate is thinking of sustainability, because I'm now essentially on the commercial side of the business. So this is my first time at meetings like this, and it's really fascinating. We have a lot to do, and I can talk a little more about our strategy, but really what we're trying to do essentially is bring it to life through our brands.
So I think you were alluding to, it was in the supply chain before, reporting to the chief supply chain officer, and now reporting to the global president, like Prabhat Paramaswaran, who's the heaviest of hitters at Colgate, right? So can you go a little bit more deeply into that strategy then? We're excited to hear as the role grows and it's more broad, what are those kind of key principles that you have in your strategy? Yeah,
so we build not unlike many of our peers, I think we build our strategies in 5-year buckets. So 2020 came and went, so we built our 2025 plan, not just the growth plan that Prabha leads, but also our what we call our sustainability and social impact strategy. So we have a 2025 sustainability and social impact strategy, and it's anchored in 3 ambition pillars. Again, similar, probably if you're on your journey, you have similar pillars, but there's a social, there's environmental, and then there's a product performance pillar. So we call it driving social impact, helping millions of homes, and preserving our environment. So we have these 3 big pillars. Underneath, we have 11 actions and over 50 targets that we're trying to get done, to achieve. And there's a lot there. I have a little joke that I'm the master of none, keeper of all, because I'm not an expert in any one of those areas or any one of those 11 actions, but I work broadly across the enterprise with lots of subject matter experts. And now, pleasingly, more and more with marketing comms, insights on that helping millions of homes is around designing more sustainable products and trying to influence people to live more sustainably through our products. Recycling, turning off the tap when you brush your teeth, things like this. So there's a lot there. Like I said, we have over 50 targets. And Prabha and Noel, our CEO, said, okay, where do we want to lead here? There's a lot going on. Yes, there's a lot of people working across all those actions. So we said, okay, we want to be focused and pick a few that we really want to lead and be known for. So we use the metaphor swords and shields. Shields are things that you have to do because you have a reputational risk or an operational risk or something like that. So you have to, shield yourself from the risk. Swords are where we want to lead. So we have a few swords. Under social, it's our Bright Smiles, Bright Futures program, which is a great program. It's 30 years old now, and it brings oral health and hygiene to underserved children around the world. And we have a goal to reach 2 billion kids by 2025, and we're at 1.6 billion now. And then we've been leaning very heavily into climate. And then the third one, which I would say is probably our biggest sword, is eliminate plastic waste. We consider plastic kind of an existential issue for us because if you stop to think about it, all of our products are in plastic packaging. So it's a big issue. So we've been really leaning into that action.
So the recyclable tube is one of your major swords. And
Yes.
I see it on LinkedIn, and I see that you've made that available not just to Colgate, but outside of Colgate into the ecosystem, right?
Right. So oral care is our biggest category. You know us by Colgate. Out of the 20 billion tubes of toothpaste that consumers use every year, we make about half of that. So we said, okay, we lead here. It's up to us. We felt the responsibility to develop what we call the first recognized recyclable toothpaste tube. Other tube suppliers were working on it at the same time, but none of them were meeting our standards and the specifications that we wanted to live up to. So when we developed the tube, we started back in 2015, and it took us actually about 5 years to get it to where we wanted it. And we chose to make it out of a monomaterial plastic that's already in the infrastructure in the recycling streams today. So that's HDPE, which is like your milk jug plastic, the hard, rigid, opaque plastic. And we wanted to make sure that it preserved the fluoride and the flavor inside, and that it was pliable and felt like a tube, which was actually kind of hard to do because that's a really rigid plastic. And then, we said, okay, and it has to be affordable. So we designed the tube, we got it right, finally, but we didn't do it in a vacuum. We were working with a lot of NGOs that are known as kind of the thought leaders. In the US, it's called the Association for Plastic Recyclers, and they deemed it recyclable. And then we said, okay, that's good. Now we need to scale this, and we need to do it quickly. So that's why we shared the technology with what I think to date we've shared it at over 70 different venues, including several of our competitors. And the good news is, I think it's 3 out of the 4 top toothpaste makers now have committed to also moving to the same it's not exactly the same technology, but they're all going to be HDPE tubes by 2025. So then all tubes will be recyclable. So the MRFs, the material recycling facilities, will accept it. Right now they're kind of wary because they don't know the difference between a Colgate tube and a Crest tube. But once everybody's converted, it'll be recyclable.
I was just trying to look at the numbers from my notes, and it is pretty impressive. That's a lot of mouths to a lot of toothpaste tubes to a lot of recycled material. 90% of the U.S. market, and all the major tube makers committed by 2025. So congratulations.
Yeah.
So that's one of your swords. And can you tell us more about those challenges that you have in the area of swords? I mean, maybe we get into shields in a minute too, because that's also cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just sticking with the tube for a minute, the challenge that we've had, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing. Because we have been, let's say, interrogated or scrutinized or, criticized even by media or journalists, by NGOs saying, wait a minute, it's not yet recycled in practice and at scale, so therefore you can't say it's recyclable. And so and we're like, yeah, but if we didn't make it, it would never be recyclable. But when I tell this story, I say that developing the technology and the engineering was only half the job. The other half of the job, and we have resources specifically dedicated to this around the world, is working with the recycling infrastructure and the NGOs and the thought leaders to make sure it's known that this is recyclable and accepted. So there's a lot of networking going on around that. And then finally, we have to let the consumers know. We deliberately have not really widely advertised that yet because that's the criticism, that if you tell them to recycle it and the MRFs aren't ready for it yet. So again, back to the chicken and egg story.
So is that part of the attention action gap?
Yeah. So and you then say, okay, well, are you facing similar challenges in other categories? So we have this, I don't know how many have heard of something called the say-do gap or the intention-action gap, but it's basically around behaviors, changing behaviors of people. And if you think about our products, they're very habit-forming kind of products. Brushing your teeth, washing your hands, cleaning your house, you don't often really think twice about it. So in order to sometimes make products more sustainable, it may require a behavior change. In other categories, we've come up with waterless forms of our benefits, like and right now it's by and large experimentation, and exploration, and learning. So we did a soft soap liquid hand soap tablet, and then the consumer needs to take it home, put it in their aluminum reusable container, and add their own water. So basically, we're having them make the soap at home, but that's not so convenient, is it, as just grabbing it off the shelf, going home, opening up, and using it. So people don't, the data that we see, we use Kantar a lot for these kinds of studies, over 90% of the people, when you ask them, do you want to live more sustainably, do you want to use sustainable products, always say yes, over 90%. But then when you actually go to see if they're doing it, 16%. So a very huge gap, right? So it's a big gap we have to close. That's what we call the intent. They intend to do the right thing, but the behavior isn't there yet. So that's the challenge I think that brands have, to try to come up with experiences that are like they can't resist not using them.
And then shifting gears a little bit, maybe talk about Google just for a second. We're proud to be partnered with you for many years. A lot of your systems are moving from Colgate's data center to Google's data center in the business that I run in Google Cloud. And so we're really proud, of course, at Google of our don't be evil was kind of how it started, and sustainability is a key part of that. Google has bought more renewable energy than anyone else over the last 10 years. Fifth consecutive year of matching 100% of our annual electricity with renewable energy, 7 gigawatts. And our next moonshot, so Google has these things we call moonshots, where we go for something really big, not just an incremental change, would be to really run 24/7 carbon-free energy, and that's by 2030. And that's where, of course, getting wind turbines to generate electricity carbon-free is cool, and it works a lot of the time, but sometimes the wind doesn't blow, sometimes the sun doesn't shine. So this commitment around 24/7 carbon-free energy for all of our operation in our data centers is by 2030 is a big one, and now there's a compact around that. So we're hoping that, by you moving your technology to our data center, that we're contributing to part of Colgate's own sustainability goals.
Well, not to get too geeky, but that's what's known as Scope 3. People are starting to hear that more and more, but we've been working on Scope 1 and 2, which is basically our own operations and utilities for years. We've been measuring all that since 2002, but now you may know that the SEC has a pending disclosure proposal that's going to and we think any day now, come out where they're going to require, starting with bigger companies first, that we will be required to disclose scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So most of our scope 3 emissions are our suppliers, come from our suppliers, whether it's our services or our materials or our packaging. So you doing that will help us a lot. I should find out how much Google is of that. Like, so our footprint, so we know our footprint. Colgate's footprint is 15% essentially purchased goods and services upstream, 5% own operations, and 80% when the consumer takes our product home and uses it and throws it away. So you're part of the 15%. So.
And we're hoping to keep moving those numbers
Yeah.
a bigger part. But thank you for being a great partner. You know, like I said at the beginning, I've been lucky to be in that family for a long time and listen to the message evolve. And you talked about bright smiles, bright futures. And I watched the internal communications around just turning off the water when you brush your teeth, which of course all my kids do now and we weren't doing before. So I wonder, could you bring that back a little bit to Colgate's overall message with respect to your DNA as a company and what that means for business?
Yeah, I mean, every company has a culture and their values, right? And it may sound cliche, but we really work hard to try to live up to those. And I think right now, if I had to boil down to the core essence of what our culture and values are, it's around caring. That's built into our DNA, and health. We're really trying to position ourselves as a health company because it's all about oral health, personal hygiene and health. We were one of those companies that sold a ton of hand soap during COVID. And pet health, elongating the lives of our pets. So we're really putting those two together. I think that it fits hand in hand with not just caring for people, but caring for the planet. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we still have a couple of minutes. Should we try to open it up for
a
few questions? Anyone have questions for him? I know we just had lunch and all, but should we make everybody stand up and stretch or something? Where's our moderator? The moderator this morning was way better.
Wow, the urgency, the speed, the delivery. I also work in sustainability field, so I'm very interested in.
You have to turn it on, I guess.
I don't know how to turn on a mic. No, I'm interested in the intent gap that you're talking about. We struggle with the same thing. I guess what tactics have you seen maybe move the needle more than anything else in terms of everyone's aspiring to be this, but then having to make difficult choices, especially maybe more economically difficult choices? What are you seeing that really moves the needle rather than just moves the intent?
Yeah, so I'll answer it with 2 points. One, again, the data we have for our product lines indicate that people do not want to compromise on quality, convenience, or price. So when we introduced the tube, by the way, it was more expensive. We didn't pass the price on. We're working really hard to bring it back down to cost neutral, but we did not pass that on to the consumer. So what I'm seeing is 2 things. You need to crack it, we need to create added benefits to products. If we, an example might be, and this is just an example, if you're going to introduce waterless formats where you're asking people to essentially make their own product at home, come out with some incredible new kind of whatever you call it, odor or odor blasting or something, some new technology that they can't get in, because actually moving to a waterless format gives us technology-wise, more flexibility to do things you can't do when you're making a liquid hand soap. So cracking that nut to find out how to make that product superior in some way so people want to use it. And I have, the 2 examples I always give is SodaStream. SodaStream is a great product. I mean, people love to customize at home. It's a reusable container. I have a friend who says, oh, it was the best birthday present I didn't know I needed. And so that's a good thing. And then like the Tesla, people don't buy Tesla because it's an EV. They buy it because it's a cool, fun car to drive. So that's important to kind of make sure that the product isn't compromising on experience. And then secondly, I think I'm trying to get joined at the hip with our insights teams, and we're learning a lot more, and we're getting more, not we, but other companies out there helping us are getting more sophisticated at understanding how to communicate and meet consumers where they're at. So not just like throwing sustainability messages in their face, but actually finding the sweet spot with what resonates with them. And it's not going to lead with, you don't need to talk about sustainability. You can talk about, this. I saw a great example recently where they were showing a guy who bikes to work every day. Well, that's more sustainable, but he doesn't do it because it's more sustainable. He does it because it makes him more fit. So the sustainability is there, but don't put it in front of people's faces, I guess.
Hi. You touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious how you weave those sustainability messages into your marketing and advertising. Like, how do you balance that?
We're still figuring that out, I think.
We are too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of building on what I was just saying, is better understanding the consumer and what makes them tick. You have to start with a really good product, right? It goes without saying. The other thing that I think we're trying to figure out as well is we have a lot to say. We've been at this for 20 years, so we have an authentic foundation. Because a big trick these days, it's getting tougher and tougher in Europe, is this greenwashing or green hushing. You really have to be tight in terms of what you say is truly what it is, right? And we're seeing a lot of issues there. So we're pretty conservative to begin with, but when you lead, leading with the tube, you're going to get called out for it. You just will. Leaders get called out.
I was just curious if you can share any insights on how you've worked maybe in partnership with any key accounts and any initiatives.
That's a great question. So we're part of the Consumer Goods Forum. I don't know how many have heard of that. It's over 400 companies, but it's both retailers and manufacturers. So most of our big retailers are pretty sophisticated now. So Walmart's our biggest. And they're pushing us in a lot of ways. So we are looking, I think that's a great opportunity that I'm not sure we've all kind of taken as far as we can yet. But especially when we're talking about this behavior stuff, I think we're going to need retailers to also communicate to consumers and finding effective ways to do that. It's no secret, we have home care as a big part of our business. Around the world, there are local brands. In the US, it's Fabuloso and Suavitel, and Palmolive dish soap. It's no secret, because we're not the only ones trying to concentrate or getting into smaller bottles, smaller formats. But then you have the shelf problem because it's not big on the shelf versus everybody else. So, it's a whole ecosystem of issues that you have to tackle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't mishear you. You said the SEC, like the Securities Exchange Commission, is cracking down on like ESG and reporting. So I guess two-part question. One, why is the Securities Exchange Commission concerned with this? And then two, can you just touch on that a little more? Because, I'm just actually super intrigued.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother fireside chat in itself. But the quick version is, so we all have investors. So we have many stakeholders. We have the consumers, we have the retailers, we have employees, who I think are one of our most important stakeholders. We have our suppliers. We have investors. Over the past couple of years, have more and more, I'm on the phone with our head of IR with investors. They want to know what we're doing around climate, around social initiatives, around plastic, even around deforestation. So I'm talking to them about what we're doing. On the climate front, a number of big investors, BlackRock probably being the biggest, are now articulating that climate change is real. I think hopefully most people in this room would believe the science. You don't even need the science. You just need to look at the extreme weather events occurring out there. Basically, if this keeps going the way it's going, and the IPCC, which is the International whatever for climate change, I can't remember what the P is, if we don't do something, eventually there's going to be huge risk to our businesses because our supply chains will become disrupted. It'll be, we won't be able to operate. So that's a huge risk. And they are asking companies to monetize and financially articulate those risks. So basically looking forward, which is unusual. We don't normally look forward like that. And identify what the risk will be in a monetized way. And this is what the SEC says responsible companies need to understand the forward-looking risk to their business. So that's essentially what they're asking us to start to disclose. They want to see that we're taking action to reduce emissions.
And this will be reported on like your 10K or like. Okay.
Yeah, yes. It's going to be a whole new thing in the 10K, yes.
And I know the challenges around getting the data for that reporting is probably what you're alluding to.
Right.
Is maybe a different fireside chat.
That is, yeah, there's a lot you could dig into here. Yes, yes.
But I think that's most of the time for today's fireside chat.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne.